Looking at the puppy beside him, Yun Yi Young told him how happy he was, that today he was standing by his side. Maybe the puppy has started to like me a little now, he thought. Hearing those words, Shicheng froze for a moment. Then, stepping closer, he licked Yun Yi Young's cheek. Yun Yi Young told him that although he wasn't feeling very well right now, living like this with the puppy didn't seem so bad. When Yun Yi Young fell asleep, Shicheng carefully carried a blanket in his mouth and covered him. But deep down, fear lingered in his heart. He could feel Yun Yi Young's pheromones growing more unstable. It was about time for him to return. He dreaded that moment. Yun Yi Young had once said, "If I turn back into a human, I will repay blood with blood." But the feelings he had developed weren't for Shicheng the Beastman. They were for the puppy. I must go back, Shicheng thought. Back to my brothers. Sighed. I have to stay strong if I don't want to be abandoned again. The next day, as usual, Yun Yi Young brought Shicheng to work. But this time, when he offered him dried sweet potatoes, Shicheng wouldn't eat them. Puzzled, Yun Yi Young asked, "What's wrong? Does your wound hurt? Should we go home? Or do you just not want to stay here? How about we go to the seaside together?" Shicheng buried his head, refusing to respond. Just then, the assistant came up to report. "The Fox clan you mentioned last. Time has been captured. Also, the mayor of the human-run casino came looking for you again." At the words "your brother came looking for you," Shicheng suddenly jerked his head up. But Yun Yi Young immediately told the assistant to send the man away, saying coldly, "I'm on a date." Yet hearing that, Shicheng thrashed against him with his legs. "How can you call this a date? Don't use such an excuse to drive my brother away. He rarely shows up in person. It must be because of me." Seeing the little dog struggle so desperately, Yun Yi Young couldn't understand what was going on. "Let's go home early today, all right? We'll have a feast and then rest well." But just then, a sudden howl echoed through the air. Shicheng recognized it instantly, the special call used by their organization. He quickly began to howl back in response. "Brother, I'm here!" But before he could finish, Yun Yi Young clamped a hand firmly over his mouth. He then ordered his assistant to drive out the one who had howled. Wrapped tightly in Yun Yi Young's coat, Shicheng was carried back home. Yun Yi Young's eyes were resolute. He understood exactly what was happening now. Back at the house, Shicheng howled again. "My brother is looking for me! If he came all the way to the wolf territory, he must still be waiting for me!" Suddenly, he was lifted into someone's arms. This doctor came over and said, "Time for the stitches to come out." The procedure was completed quickly. Fortunately, he was recovering well. His nutrition was far better than when they first met. He was only advised not to overuse his legs for now. Shicheng thought, "If I recover quickly, I'll be able to turn back into human form soon." When Yaoi Young sleeps, I'll contact my brother. I can't keep living here as a dog. I'm the casino's fighting hound. That night, tugging at the blanket, he carefully slid down from the bed. His legs weren't fully healed, but he managed to make his way to the wardrobe. Moments later, he emerged in human form. Now, all he needed was a phone. Climbing slowly back onto the bed, he crept past Yun Yi Young, praying desperately that he wouldn't wake. When he finally got hold of the phone, Shicheng's heart leapt with joy. Yet even in sleep, Yun Yi Young's hands moved restlessly, brushing against him. Shicheng almost wanted to shove him away hard, but forced himself to endure. Quietly, he left the room and dialed his brother's number. As the line connected, a familiar voice came through. "Shicheng, is that you? What's going on?" "Brother," Shicheng whispered, hesitating over how to explain. Should I tell him the truth? Maybe my disappearance was better for him after all. But hearing Shicheng's voice, his brother's tone grew urgent. "Is it really you? Shicheng, you're there, aren't you? I knew it. You must have suffered a lot during this time." Hearing those words, Shicheng's throat tightened. "Brother, I'm sorry. It's a long story. After I got the item, I was ambushed and injured. Park Geon-tae told him it was okay. Don't stay with that man-eating wolf anymore. Just come back. No matter what, life is the most important thing. Shicheng wondered if he could really go back. Park Geon-tae told him, "Of course you can. Why even ask? Don't you miss your brother?" Shicheng's face was full of grievance. He thought about finally being able to go home. He couldn't avoid his only family just because of his own mistake. Park Geon-tae asked how he had managed to contact him, and if he needed to pick him up. Shicheng said no. "Brother, I'm leaving now." As dawn broke, Shicheng got into a taxi. The driver looked at his thin clothing and asked, "Aren't you cold? Did you turn back into your true form after drinking?" Embarrassed, Shicheng nodded. "Yes." The driver turned up the heater. "I used to do that a lot when I was young. Don't worry, you'll warm up soon." Shicheng thanked him. At that moment, the wound on his leg began to bleed again. He had just taken the money hidden under the sofa, slipped out quietly in his way, puppy form, and escaped without anyone noticing. It had been too easy, almost suspiciously so. He should have felt relieved. Yet because he cared too much, Shicheng's heart was restless with unease. He would probably sleep until noon. He would wake up, rubbing against him lazily, asking silly questions. Such mornings would never come again. Though those habits were annoying, when he thought about them, they seemed not so bad after all. Meanwhile, at the casino, Park Geon-tae was already prepared. When the door opened and he saw Shicheng return, he stood up happily. "You're back." Seeing the eyes of the two men beside him, Shicheng felt they must think he was a traitor. He quickly apologized to his brother. Park Geon-tae draped a coat over him. "You should feel sorry. Do you know how worried I've been? Why didn't you contact me? Sit down first." As Shicheng recounted everything, Park Geon-tae poured him a cup of tea. "So, you were treated like a pet dog. That's actually fortunate." Hearing that, Shicheng's mind flashed back to the days of living with Yoon Yi-young. His chest tightened. He downed the tea in one gulp. He mustn't think about it anymore. Once he confirmed Shicheng had finished drinking, Park Geon-tae reassured him, "There's nothing to worry about. You've been through enough. You can return to the organization without issue." Just as Shicheng was about to bring up the promise he'd made, not to continue in this line of work, Park Geon-tae suddenly cut him off. "The hole left by the Aiwinsi. Missing goods. I covered half of it using your money. The rest you'll need to pay off, and then we'll start over." Shicheng froze. "My money? You used my money to pay for them? And now I must repay the rest?" He shot up angrily. "Why would you use my money? Brother, I'm the victim here. That money, wasn't it meant for us to find a place together? To leave this life behind?" "Why?" Park Geon-tae calmly stood up, his expression unreadable. "Yes, 3 years ago, we did make that promise." Shicheng's fury boiled over. "Then, why? Tell me why." It was then that Park Geon-tae finally revealed his true colors. "Reason? Do you really think you're the victim? Everything that's happened, you brought it on yourself. You lost the goods, I cleaned up your mess. And now you blame me." Shicheng's chest heaved with anger. He slapped the lighter from Park Geon-tae's hand. "Say it clearly, brother. Do you know how many years I've worked day and night, suffering humiliation from clients, just to save that money? And you gave it to the organization, leaving me to start over from nothing." Park Geon-tae stepped closer and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Shicheng, you should know, if it weren't for me, you'd already be dead. I begged on your behalf, so they'd let you go. If you had brought the goods back safely, none of this would have happened," Shicheng protested, insisting he had been robbed by an unknown attacker. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness struck him. His legs gave way, and he collapsed to the floor. Park. Geon-tae looked down coldly, a cruel smile on his lips. "How slow you are!" Meanwhile, in a half-sleep, Yoon Yi-young reached out beside him, searching. But he didn't find the little dog. Slowly, he opened his eyes. "Where's the puppy?" He sat up in panic. Where did the puppy go? Zicheng collapsed on the ground, his whole body powerless, unable to move as if his limbs no longer listened to him. He realized too late something was wrong with that cup of tea. He couldn't understand why his brother would do this to him. Park Geon-tae lifted him up from the floor, saying coldly, "I picked up your half-dead body, gave you food and shelter." You should know how to be grateful. Whatever the clients want you to do, you just do it. Is that so hard? If you don't throw tantrums, the sales will triple. You ungrateful brat. At that moment, Zicheng finally understood. The truth was, his brother had abandoned him a long time ago. Then Park Geon-tae pulled out a rope and bound him. Sorry, Zicheng. You just weren't good enough. Zicheng fought to stay conscious, hearing Park Geon-tae order his men to take the side door. But the drug coursing through his body overwhelmed him, and he fainted. Half conscious, he felt the world shaking around him. It must have been a moving car. His eyes were blindfolded. Time passed, but he still couldn't summon any strength. In desperation, he transformed back into his puppy form and stumbled towards the door. His legs were weak, and halfway there, he twisted his ankle, but he forced himself forward. This was his only chance. The moment the door opened, he bolted outside. Chaos broke out instantly. Someone on the street bumped into him, knocking him down. Zicheng trembled in pain, but he still struggled to run. His head spun dizzily. Finally, he made it outside, gasping. He thought bitterly, "This time, no one will find me. That's fine. I have nowhere to belong anyway." Yoon Yi-young, I'm sorry. Weak, he collapsed on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. Through the haze, he vaguely heard footsteps approaching, and then a familiar voice sounded. By his ear, "Zicheng, why did you run out here alone?" As he lay unconscious, Zicheng dreamed of his childhood. That day, his mother had given him a pile of snacks. "Mom, can I really eat all of these?" he had asked. "Of course," she smiled. "They're all yours. Stay home and eat while you..." "Wait, okay?" Zicheng nodded happily. But then his father came in, urging impatiently, "What are you doing? Hurry up, let's go. That sickly child, he's useless. We can't take him with us." Unlike his healthy younger brother, Zicheng's frail body only earned his father's disgust. So that day, Zicheng behaved especially obediently, hoping they'd see he could be a good child. But it turned out to be his last moment with his family. After the snacks were gone, hunger gnawed at him until he reverted into a feeble puppy, barely alive. That was when Park Geon-tae found him in the abandoned house. At first, Park Geon-tae thought the little dog was dead. Then, realizing he was still breathing, he decided to take him in. His companion had doubted it. "This pup too thin. Won't live long. Are you sure you want to keep him?" "Yes," Park Geon-tae had answered. "He reminds me of my own childhood." Back home, Park Geon-tae fed him properly. While eating, Zicheng asked, "Where's my mom?" Park Geon-tae crushed his fragile hope. "Face reality. You've been abandoned." Got it? And so, Park Geon-tae kept him. Though Zicheng always tried to avoid the truth, deep down he had known this day would come again. The sick and the weak are always discarded. His brother had only taken him in because he had some use for the organization. 2. Survive. He trained with the fighting dogs in the casino, hiding his suffering as best he could. But now, once again, he was abandoned. In his dream, Zicheng cried desperately for his mother. "Take me with you. I'm not sick anymore. I won't cause trouble, I promise." Hearing his feverish murmurs, Yoon Yi-young, who was at his side, now felt his heart ache. He bent down and gently caressed Zicheng's cheek. "Who should take you away? From now on, you'll stay with me. For a lifetime. You'll just be my useless little dog. The one who eats too much and gets all dirty." When Zicheng woke, he looked around in confusion. This wasn't Yi-young's home. Then he realized he was in his human form. Yoon Yi-young was sharp, with a keen sense of smell. He must have already figured out that Sicheng was the little dog. Sicheng limped about, searching for somewhere to hide. But where could he possibly go now? If he had nowhere to belong, why bother escaping? Still, anywhere was better than here. Just then, he heard a sound. Yi-young was coming. Panicking, Sicheng squeezed himself into the wardrobe, curling into a trembling ball. The footsteps drew closer, carrying the faint scent of blood. They stopped right in front of the wardrobe. He could feel Yi-young's presence. Just beyond the door, Sicheng thought, when he opens it, I'll dash out immediately. The next second, the door swung open. Sicheng threw himself forward with all his might, yelling, "Get away!" But his tiny fists were no match for Yi-young. He caught him on the spot. Terrified, Sicheng shouted, "You lunatic! Let me go!" Instead, Yi-young leaned in and stole a kiss. Sicheng froze, horrified. He's insane! Yi-young smiled with joy, his voice tender. "Little dog, were you waiting for me?" Hearing that, Sicheng froze on the spot, his words stumbling, even. When he went a little mad, Yoon Yi-young still treated him as his puppy, feeding him directly while letting him sit on his lap. "Are you hungry? It's about time for your meal." Thinking about it, Sicheng really was hungry. He obediently opened his mouth. But wasn't he here to kill me? Just a moment ago, he held me in his arms, helped me change clothes, and carried me into the cafeteria. Now he's feeding me on his lap. Has he grown so used to my presence that he just wants to raise me like a pet? Unable to hold it in, Sicheng asked, Why are you still treating me like you usually do? Didn't I slap you across the face?" At those words, Yoon Yi-young reached up to touch his own cheek. Seeing this, Sicheng thought perhaps he shouldn't have brought it up. But the next second, Yoon Yi-young said, "It was exciting." At that moment, I was furious, but my heart was pounding like crazy. I think that's when it all began. Sicheng was stunned. The next moment, Yoon Yi-young tried to feed him again. Sicheng suddenly snatched the spoon away. "Stop always feeding." "Me," his body trembled. "During all this time, you knew I was the dog, yet you still raised me like a pet." Yoon Yi-young chuckled. "Me? No. I've always treated you as my partner." Sicheng thought he was utterly insane. "Then why did you pretend not to know I was a beastman from the start? You knew I was human, and yet you still treated me this way." Every time Sicheng thought about it, anger rose in his chest. Yoon Yi-young calmly explained, "Because you were just too adorable. I wanted to keep you by my side." At last, Sicheng understood. So in this man's mind, he was always seen that way. Suddenly, the place on his body where he had been kicked earlier began to ache. Yoon Yi-young immediately leaned forward, worried. But Sicheng pushed him away. Even so, Yoon Yi-young held him up, insisting on calling a doctor. As Sicheng shrank down, he shifted back into his little dog form. "Are you okay?" Yoon Yi-young asked gently. Sicheng was both angry and helpless. But Yoon Yi-young only found him even cuter, leaning down to steal a kiss. Sicheng thought, fine, whatever. But the next second, Yoon Yi-young bit him. Sicheng was speechless. This guy was just as infuriating as ever. The anger only worsened his pain, and eventually, after the doctor's treatment and an IV, Sicheng spent 2 full days recuperating in Yoon Yi-young's room. When Sicheng finally woke up, Yoon Yi-young stroked his head tenderly. "While you were asleep, I prepared a gift for you." Sicheng immediately thought, he probably just wants another kiss. But Yoon Yi-young smiled. "No, not a kiss. This is something Puppy will really love. Do you want to see it now?" Hearing that, Sicheng couldn't help but grow curious. On the same way, Yoon Yi-young told him, "To prepare this gift, I had to spend money and pull some strings. It's all for you. This is my gift for you, Puppy." When Sicheng saw it, his eyes widened in shock. There, bound by chains, who had bullied him before? "Do you like it?" Yoon Yi-young asked, then set him down. "Go on. puppy can do whatever he wants. The sight was completely unexpected, but Xicheng truly did like this gift. With a fierce glare, he rushed forward, baring his teeth at the coach. Yun Yi Young stood at the side, watching with delight. Do you want me to take him around on a leash for you? Or would you rather eat him up? Xicheng glanced coldly at the beaten him, whose condition was already miserable. Are you still going to bully him? Compared to what he himself had endured, this punishment felt far too light. Then an idea came to mind, and hand him over to the casino. Since Yun Yi Young couldn't understand, Xicheng barked at his assistant, telling him to translate. The puppy says it's filthy. Hearing that, Yi Young looked aggrieved. Are you talking about me? Xicheng was speechless. He barked again. The assistant translated. The puppy says that thing is filthy. He doesn't want it. So he says to throw it to the casino. Yi Young asked, do you mean the casino where the puppy used to work? That kind of place? Xicheng nodded. But Yi Young frowned. Wouldn't it be bad if someone recognized him? So he decided instead to send him to a casino in Southeast Asia, where no one spoke the same language. About 3 years would be enough. Xicheng felt deeply satisfied when he heard this. While cursing that man, he still wanted him to suffer just as he had. The assistant then translated his words to Yi Young. Though not the same, the meaning was close enough. Yi Young's face instantly darkened. He stormed toward Quan Jihei and beat him savagely. Why didn't you say it earlier? Hearing his screams, Xicheng finally felt his revenge fulfilled. After that, Yi Young carried Xicheng away. Although seeing Quan Jihei in that miserable state was indeed satisfying, there was still something Xicheng couldn't quite figure out. He barked at Yi Young again. Let me go! I want to change back into human form. Sliding down from him, Xicheng directly transformed back into a man. Yi Young was momentarily stunned. Xicheng asked, Don't tell me you also touched the conditional state? Yi Young frowned in confusion. Why are you asking that? Xicheng told him firmly. Never touch the conditional state. Yi Young thought he was still worried about that man. But in the next second, Xicheng's expression turned vicious. That guy? I'll kill him with my own hands. Hearing this, Yi Young was overjoyed. He stepped forward and pulled him into a tight embrace. He had never been bothered by their language barrier before. If only he had known earlier that the little puppy could say such cute things, he would have stayed with him in human form all along. It would have been far more fun. I don't like Park Jian-tae either. Can I help the puppy? Why? Xicheng asked. Yi Young said calmly. He once provoked me. Xicheng tilted his head. What happened? Instead of answering, Yi Young bit down on his ear. Xicheng's face darkened. Say it properly. But Yi Young only whispered, It's nothing. Clearly he wasn't going to explain. So Xicheng didn't press further. With a sharp tone, he warned him, Just don't get in my way. Yi Young smiled happily. Fine, I hate that guy too. Let me help you get revenge. Also, he tightened his hold. From now on, remember, to live with me in our home. Xicheng nodded. After all, Yi Young was a reliable ally, but there was always that feeling of being led around by the nose. When he noticed Yi Young getting restless, Xicheng quickly waved his little fists. Where are you looking? That very night, the news about Quan Jihei's beating had already spread through the underground circles. Anyone even slightly connected to the incident was caught in Yi Young's dragnet. Everyone, except Park Geon-tae. Just as Xicheng had said, Yi Young held back from moving against him. For now, though Xicheng had sworn revenge, every time he thought of that betrayal, his heart sank into darkness again. Still, with Yi Young by his side, he could never sink too far. Sensing Yi Young about to bite him again, Xicheng spun around. Stop biting me all the time! Strangely enough, Yi Young seemed unusually clingy today, his tail wagging. You smell so good. Xicheng scowled. Didn't you used to say I was just a dog? Unknowingly, he drifted into sleep. But in the middle of the night, a strange noise jolted him awake. Slowly opening his eyes, the next second, he froze. Before him stood a massive man-eating wolf. Seeing such a huge man-eating wolf in front of him, Shicheng froze on the spot. What? What is this? Drool dripped from the wolf's mouth as it pinned Shicheng down with its claws, holding him as if he were prey. It was then that Shicheng realized, could this be Yunyi Young? The wolf leaned closer, sniffing at his scent as if trying to confirm his identity. Does he have no consciousness right now? What if he accidentally bites me to death? Shicheng forced himself to calm down. Slowly, he reached for the quilt beside him. With a sudden motion, he flung it upward to block the wolf's view, then bolted in panic. But in the next second, Yunyi Young broke free and immediately chased after him. Shicheng was caught again this time. It was truly dangerous. What kind of heat shock pheromone is this supposed to be? Desperately, Shicheng came up with an idea. While Yunyi Young was still sniffing at his scent, he quickly transformed into a little puppy, shrinking his body, and darted under the bed to hide. He hadn't even caught his breath yet, when suddenly Yunyi Young appeared right behind him. Startled, Shicheng scrambled further inside. Was this guy just about to attack me? Too much! He dared to attack me! And he even said he wanted to live together before this! The next day, Shicheng spent the entire night under the bed, trembling with fear. Then he heard Yunyi Young calling out, "Puppy, where are you?" Now that Yunyi Young had turned back into human form, his big ears and tail remained. Shicheng thought it was best to keep hiding for now, just to see the situation. But Yunyi Young looked genuinely anxious. He seemed to believe that Shicheng had gone missing again. Startled, Shicheng barked a few times. Yunyi Young turned and spotted him under the bed. "There you are. I've been looking for you everywhere. Thank goodness. I'm so glad I didn't kill you." Hearing those words, Shicheng froze. What kind of lunatic is this? Yunyi Young reached out a hand to coax him out, his expression gentle. "Come here, sweetheart. It's all right." After confirming that he seemed normal again, Shicheng finally felt relieved and leapt into his arms. "Yesterday scared me to death." Then he asked, "You really don't remember anything?" Yunyi Young told him that when he woke up in the morning, everything around him had been a mess. Shicheng pressed further. "Then what's the last thing you do remember, Yun?" Ya Young thought for a moment. "I remember looking at you while you slept and wanting to mark you." Shicheng was stunned. "Then yesterday, when you kept licking me, like you were going to eat me alive, you don't remember any of that? You even grabbed me like prey during a hunt." The more he spoke, the angrier he became. He snatched up a pillow. "And this too! You bit and clawed it all up! It's completely ruined!" Yunyi Young chuckled at his cuteness. "Did I really?" Shicheng, still fuming, shoved food at him. "If you're going into pheromone shock, then just take medicine. Why suffer like an idiot and put me through hell?" Yunyi Young calmly replied, "I already took medicine." Suddenly, Shicheng realized something. Could it be that the reason he hadn't returned to his beast form all this time was because he recalled the conversation Yunyi Young once had with the doctor? He was afraid that if he lost control, he'd attack me, the little pup. So, he was worried about me this whole time. Guilt welled up in his chest. Then Yunyi Young asked, "Do you know? After analyzing my behavior yesterday, I think my rut might have been triggered early because of you. You'll take responsibility, won't you?" The next second, Shicheng picked up the pillow and whacked him hard. As bits of cotton flew out, from the pillow, Yunyi Young laughed. "Look at all these little puppies, just like you." Shicheng wanted to beat him senselessly. In the end, he decided to drag Yunyi Young to the hospital. On the way, the assistant glanced at the rearview mirror at Shicheng and asked, "How should I address you?" Shicheng blinked in confusion. Does he not recognize me? Well, it was true. This was the first time anyone had seen his human form. He muttered, "I'm the little dog." The assistant's eyes widened in realization. "Ah, so you're a beast man. I understand now." Seeing such a reaction, Shicheng felt it might have been better if he hadn't said anything at all. Beside him, Yoon Yi-young was secretly laughing. Shicheng wanted nothing more than to punch him. When they arrived at the hospital, after a round of examinations, the doctor looked at the diagnostic report and told them there was something unusual. "I'll recheck your pheromone levels," he said, taking out the device and moving closer to Shicheng. The next second, Yoon Yi-young suddenly pulled Shicheng into his arms and let out a low growl at the doctor. The doctor, startled, quickly apologized. Shicheng was puzzled. "What's wrong?" The doctor reassured him. "It's nothing. Among wolf clans, when winter approaches and they encounter their mate, they tend to become very sensitive." Shicheng understood. "So that's what this is about." But immediately, something felt off. "Wait a second, I'm not his mate." After the test was completed, the doctor told them, although Yoon's pheromone level of 1,710 is rather abnormal, what's even more surprising is that his mate's value is only 6. Normally, it should be around 200. Shicheng was curious. Are there other beastmen like me with such low sex hormone levels? The doctor explained, in most cases, the extent of sex hormones is largely influenced by genetics, but it also depends on environmental factors. For example, someone like Yoon, who remained in beast form throughout his growth period, would have his sex hormones strongly reinforced. On the other hand, if one fails to receive proper nutrition during development, the hormones can't form normally. At that moment, Shicheng realized Yoon Yi-young really had lived in wolf form for many years. His childhood must have been far from normal. Poor guy. Being patted like that made Yoon Yi-young very happy. Shicheng, however, was suspicious. "What are you hiding in your pocket?" Yoon replied innocently. "There's nothing in my pocket." Shicheng was speechless. Even in heat, this is just too much. The doctor told Shicheng, "Luckily, your pheromone level is low, so Yoon didn't show aggression. Still, I recommend the two of you release pheromones at least once a week, perhaps through gaming." Shicheng's face froze in disbelief. Meanwhile, Yoon looked pitiful. "But my darling doesn't even know how to play games. Besides, we're only at the early stages of dating, and you're already suggesting this kind of advantage." Shicheng couldn't take it anymore. His face flushed red as he rushed out of the room. Watching him flee, Yoon found him even cuter. But the moment he turned back, his expression, and even his tone, shifted entirely. "Give me a small injection of hormone suppressants first," he ordered. The doctor, respectful and cautious, answered, "Of course." The next second, he felt a wave of killing intent. Yoon gave a chilling smile. "Next time, act more natural." The doctor, terrified, bowed deeply. What a miserable fate. Forced to meddle in their romance under the watch of a wolf. Later, Yoon brought a drink to Shicheng. Maybe because he's a doctor, he thought that kind of suggestion was no big deal. Shicheng muttered, still annoyed as he accepted the drink. How could I possibly play games with such a massive wolf? Yoon sat down and immediately rested his head on Shicheng's shoulder. Shicheng thought, he really is clingy, and quickly pushed him away. He asked bluntly, "Was it because of pheromone shock that you couldn't even sleep with your previous lover?" Yoon blushed. "I've been saving myself, waiting to meet my little puppy." "Don't talk nonsense," Shicheng retorted. "That blonde wolf wasn't injured because of your pheromone shock." Yoon stared at him intensely, making Shicheng uneasy. "What is it?" Just then, a nurse came to call Yoon for treatment. Yoon stood up. "Didn't think you'd remember that." To be honest, half of it was intentional. As he spoke, he took off his coat and draped it over Shicheng. "Those who approach me usually have a purpose." Watching his back, Shicheng wondered, could that incident also have been part of his work as a watcher? Later, he stood with the assistant outside the treatment room, watching Yoon inside. He noticed the information posted outside. Yoon Yi-young was 6 years older than him. Even so, I still must keep giving him my evaluations. I've got nothing left to lose now. No need to please anyone anymore. He then told the assistant, "I'm going to the restroom." "It's dangerous to go." "Alone," the assistant reminded him, but Shi-cheng insisted. "It's close by." And as he washed his hands, someone suddenly approached from behind. "You came here with Yoon, didn't you?" Startled, Shi-cheng turned around and instantly recognized the man. The man gave a polite smile. "I know Yoon Yi-young." "Quite the coincidence, isn't it? So I hope you don't mind me asking. My name is Yang Huikan.